Hey F1 fans, welcome to Who Moved Up and Who Moved Down after the China Grand Prix this past weekend. Here's I love the stadium they have at this track. It's really, really cool. And the atmosphere looked really fantastic. This was a truly eventful race after an eventful sprint, quali, and race as well. We had a virtual safety car and two full safety cars, which means closing of any gaps the drivers built up from other drivers, and a rolling restart after each one. The first incident brought out a yellow flag, then a virtual safety car, then a full safety car. So there was a bit of drama whether they should have or shouldn't have done that. And then just before the rolling restart, the cars bunched up at the back and there were collisions mid-pack. Penalties ensued out of that mess. And the safety cars, of course, brought a lot of opportunistic pitting and unexpected tire strategies. So, wow, we all need 2 weeks off after this one, and we're not even doing the race. All right, let's get into it. Let's see where we had changes for the teams. Okay, we had a little shuffle at the back of the pack. Alpine versus Sauber. Alpine's P11 and P13 versus Sauber's P14 and DNF allowed Alpine to move up in the championship out of the misery of last place. Ferrari, the two Ferraris got a bit tangled at the start and fell back to P7 and 8, so this wasn't their best scenario race weekend. And Haas versus RB is another battle. A decent week for Haas again, adding one more point to their tally, while RB sustained 2 DNFs, narrowing the gap between those two teams down to, just 2 points. Okay, let's see what changed for the drivers now. Again, some shuffling near the back of the pack. We have, among the drivers that have no points, we have Esteban Ocon, started in P13 and finished in 11. He had a solid race, finishing just outside the points there, and it's enough to move him up 2 spots, though, while the other 2 drivers slide. Zhou Guanyu, it was his home race. He waited many years for this. Both because he wasn't in F1 yet, and also we haven't had a race in China since COVID. So he was just so thrilled and got emotional after that with all the amazing support from the crowd. And then I have a little bit, a lot to say about the next driver because I have a picture. Daniel Ricciardo. He did not pit during the first safety car, so he came out of that with a medium tire, which we would have to pit again before the end of the race. With most of the other drivers on hards until the end, he was set up at a disadvantage, it seemed. But we never found out because in the end, it didn't matter. When the cars bunched up after the first rolling restart, Lance Stroll ran into the back of Ricciardo, bringing out the second safety car soon after. And it was Lance's front wing was under Daniel's rear wheels. Daniel went straight ahead, lost the corner. So later it became clear that he was carrying some damage from being hit and he had to retire the car at lap 34. And he remains well behind his teammate in the championship, with Yuki being up here, 11, and Ricciardo in P18, having fallen down one more from last week. So he really needs a point, and that was bad luck. Okay, what else changed? Ready? Oh, nothing. That's okay. There's a few point gap changes, but let's see. Okay, so Max, winner. What more needs to be said? Sergio Perez, he started in P2 but finished in P3, missing out on that 1-2 finish for Red Bull, but fine race for him. Charles Leclerc, he is decided to try a one-stop race before the first safety car. It seemed to stretch, forcing Lando Norris, who was kind of neck and neck with him, to try to do the same because they were in direct competition. But then another safety car came along and changed all of this. But it was interesting to see that they were going to try that. But we didn't get to find out. So in the end, though, here he is, and he has a relatively small gap with Perez still. So that's still within reach. Okay, we have Carlos Sainz. He also didn't pit at either of the safety cars. Seemed like a bad choice, but he continued to stay ahead of George Russell, though, because Russell was also struggling with his tires. So, yeah, in the end, he's close on the heels of his teammate in the championship. Not too many points separating, in spite of missing an entire race. Gotta say. Okay, Lando Norris started in P4. He didn't get called into the pit at the start of the virtual safety car, and this allowed Leclerc to pit before him. So I was like, well, that's a bad move. His competitor got a quick pit stop, and he didn't. But they managed to pit him the lap after, because there was still a virtual safety car. And it wasn't that they didn't want to pit him; it's that he just crossed the entry to the pit when they called virtual safety car. So yeah, he had to do another lap, but fortunately he had time to do that quick stop. And he fought off Perez towards the end of the race to keep P2. And for all of that, he got driver of the day, totally deserved. Oscar Piastri, on the other hand, picked up some damage from those collisions after the first restart, so couldn't fight, totally finished in P8. But still right up there with Lando in the championship, although he has some folks on his heels. Okay, Fernando Alonso, I have a bunch of notes. Started in P3, so really excellent quali. Got ahead of Sergio Perez at the start, and was pulling away from him. But then he realized he was killing his tires, so unfortunately he had to let that pace go. But for the tires, he has a faster pace. They put on a soft tire at the first safety car, which got him past Sainz, but seemed like a crazy idea. Because of course he had to pit again real soon to get off of those soft tires. And when he did, he dropped all the way back to P12. But he explained later that they were just down to barely any choices for tires. They had that soft and they had mediums, and that was it. So they had to do what they could. In any case, after getting onto a medium, he went on to fight all the way back up to P7. So that was epic. He got fastest lap as well. And for me, he was driver of the day for all of that. So yeah, he's only 2 points behind Russell in the championship. Very close battle there. And Mercedes is struggling with Russell doing, a little bit better wrangling than Hamilton in that. But I see Alonso can catch him. Let's see. All right, then Lewis Hamilton, bad quali, starts in P18. And he started on soft to try to get ahead, but hated that tire and dropped back to P19 after the first pit stop. So that didn't work. But later on, he just led a solid race on other tires, liked the hard tire. So finished in P9 and stays where he is in the championship. Not really under threat. Okay, then we have Lance Stroll. He started in P11, so decent quali, definitely. But as we said, he ran into the back of Ricciardo during that first restart. So that ruined his race as well, because they had to pit right away to replace the front wing, went all the way to the back of the pack, and then he received a 10-second penalty for causing that collision, which it did seem like his fault. So then they pitted him again to serve the 10-second penalty and switch to the hard tire. His race ended in P15. In Guess F1, he was the driver for this week, and I guessed P11 for him. And he was in P11 until all this stuff happened. So darn, I fell to P5 in the guest F1 overall standings from P4 last week, but only 3 points off the leader. So watch out, it's on. Okay, we have Yuki Tsunoda. Okay, he passed Daniel in the pit with an undercut. So it was looking good for him to finish another race ahead of his teammate. For me, the thing with Yuki is all about him and Ricardo, right? Will Ricardo outperform Yuki and get the Red Bull seat? Or will he fail to do so? And I'm kind of rooting for Yuki here because everyone just wants him to get beat. And it's like, no, he's driving really well. And he has, gone light years from where he was 2 years ago when he started. Or 3 now, what is it? So yeah, I'm rooting for him in this battle. So yeah, when he undercut Ricardo, it's like, yeah, excellent. But Ricardo got him back later because he had the new tire advantage. But all of that really didn't matter because later Magnussen took Yuki completely out. So that ends in a DNF. Pretty miserable race and quali because he started in P19. I think he said he got impeded. So yeah, nothing to write home about at all. But in spite of all of that, he maintains his rank. Ollie's not going to catch him, and he's still only 2 points away from Stroll. So really, he passed unscathed from this disaster of a race. Okay, Nico Hülkenberg, solid race. He added another point for himself, for Haas, and he is probably going to catch Oliver, who of course can't drive anymore because he only drove that one race when Carlos Sainz was ill. So yeah, I think let's see when that happens. Okay, and Kevin Magnussen in the other Haas started in P17, so bad quali, and he took out Yuki Tsunoda, so he fell to the back of the pack, and yes, it was his fault. So he also got a 10-second penalty for his troubles. Albon, good race, but the car just doesn't have the pace to fight for points. So he's the P12 in that race. Gasly, decent race until his tire popped off during a pit stop. He hit the mechanic. Everyone was super worried, but this stuff just shouldn't happen. But it extended his pit stop and wrecked his race a little bit. But he ended in P13. Poor Bottas, started in P10, qualified really well. The changes they've made on those salvers are working, possibly to fight for points. However, he went off in lap 21 with engine failure. That brought out that first yellow flag / virtual safety car / full safety car when many drivers pitted for the second time with that opportunity. Brought him a DNF, keeping him way down there in the back of the championship. And then, of course, we have Logan Sargent, Mr. at the back. Sorry, but he started in P20, and then he had to start from the pit because of a late change to his car after Parc Fermé, and later he got a 10-second penalty. Okay, get this, for a safety car infringement that we just couldn't see what went wrong there. It was very strange. Basically, when you watch the explainer videos later, that's when we found out that when he came out of the pit, he was technically behind the other car on track, who was driving at virtual safety car speed when he crossed that pit exit official line. But we're talking inches behind, okay? So even at virtual safety car speeds, nobody can see that difference, but that was captured. And so technically he was behind, but because he ended up in front of that car when the pit exit resolved, it counted as passing during a safety car. So yeah, poor Logan, 10-second penalty on top of all of that. But it was a weird penalty. So yeah, that was a super exciting race this week. The only way it could have been more crazy, I guess, is if it could have rained, which it almost threatened to rain at the start. So that would have been a whole bunch of extra shenanigans and probably more DNFs. The next race is in Miami in 2 weeks. And see you after the race. Till then.